some projects though, because we are in a limited space and that makes septic very complicated. And I cannot sell $70,000 worth of cheese. So that definitely makes sense.
My wife really likes cheese, though.
I do too. You sold me on cheese.
Should be a
Yeah.
dedicated supporter.
Because Bridget is actually the one that we do have a couple of things to clear up with. Because we are not selling any perishable food items, I know a lot of that is kind of taken away. I had spoken with her last year, actually, and because it is our own residence and we have zero intention of ever hiring an employee, and because nothing is consumed on site, we don't need a public restroom, and we don't even need an employee restroom. It's our house. So septic, she told me last year, should be fine. There's no need to upgrade. There's honestly not even plumbing that goes to the barn, so there's no impact on the septic. So I was kind of hoping to clear that up with her today, but and I did it.
It's never easy, so it's a lot of barriers.
Yeah. And we do have
hoops to
the
jump through.
septic being maintained actually this week, I think, so it's a regularly maintained.
Pulling up the bylaw.
And so in terms of the building itself, right, the write-up that's here from, with the different items that are listed in here, right? The fire chief covered fire alarm system. But the one thing I'm not seeing, because once the building gets open to the public, because I'm coming from corporate real estate, you do need to have exit and emergency lighting in the building.
Oh, yeah.
In the event the power goes out.
We talked to one of the gentlemen that does the inspection.
Yeah.
And he came with 2 other firemen. So we walked over everything, and so he told me to do the exit signs that shows the 2 meter egress and fire extinguishers. Yeah. Fire alarm. So once we read this fire alarm is all set, we need to install this exit sign. This one.
We need exit signs, and those lights on either side of it are egress lights.
Right.
And so I didn't see that in any place.
I just didn't want to.
But so that's
If you could.
All these things will obviously be met once we get to go ahead and we're going to finish up the process.
Yeah. So I think at this point, we're gonna opt to make that change in that.
Jason's going to print out the section of the bylaw so we can
I think
really read it
that
on here. But
the language that's in that town center district is gonna have a slight modification to it, which we're obviously prepared to make. At this point, I think that allow you to get a permit for conducting business in there. As far as, the 1 second, Jim, as far as the parking in the back, you gotta be careful that you're managing the stormwater runoff and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, we're actually on a slope, so everything ends up in our field.
Yeah.
Not 3 acres like that. But when we had our engineer coming, like he said, that you're on a slope, all the water goes in your vegetable garden anyways. And
Okay.
so, and we got because when I talked to the road commission, they wanted at least a 15 feet apron. So it just the tire, so we went 22 feet. We're good, we got the front of the boundary paved and put that apron, so at least it's nice and clean. And and John was saying we need 1 parking space for like 340 square feet. So now, including our vehicles, we're good. Plenty of room. So once we can go ahead and we're gonna finalize everything with the engineer because they are expensive. So we don't spend $6,800 to get a fancy plan for no reason. So, but what from the space you saw is like, hey, you're way beyond what you're good. So yeah.
So you're checking all the boxes as you're going through.
Well, yeah, and then when we have a big check to do, like, right, let's make sure we can keep moving forward.
Right.
Like the barn would have need to get renovated anyways. That house, when we got it, that house.
Oh yeah.
I've been driving in front of it for 12 years. It was always so
Everyone knows that house.
Yeah, we have known that house for
so regardless,
50
the
years.
renovation had to happen. But now we renovated it in the idea of doing this business.
So I mean, I think we are all encouraged and supportive of the concept, and as Ron said, it just boils down to the allowable use in the bylaw. And our bylaw it's fairly new and it really hasn't been tested yet. So this is sort of where we are, is working out all those things. It is a bylaw that is sponsored by the planning board, so
Right.
they need to go through the process first to determine how to tweak it and what their thoughts are before it comes to the select board for their review, before it goes to a town meeting. So there is a time process, unfortunately, to have to go through.
It is. It is a process. You
No,
just-
we do
Yeah.
that coming in, so.
I think overall the intent is what I think I'll speak for myself as a resident, hope to see in town. Like like you said, we've all driven by that building hundreds of times, and it's the renovation project you guys have done has been tremendous. I mean, there was a time where the grass was never cut there, and I'm still new to town. I guess in the grand scheme of things, you guys have been here longer than I have. So, so I think the intent is awesome, and there's no discrepancy there. To Leah's point, it's a little bit of a nuance within the language there that, with the planning board's help and their discussion and their sharing with us, we can hopefully get that resolved to enable you guys to be successful and open a small business. So, what is like your timeline in the grand scheme? Like, are you trying to open tomorrow?
But I figured I'd get
Okay, all right.
We were originally hoping for October, but not gonna happen, so that's fine. So now our idea, ideally, would be after the holiday season, January, February. We're in
Okay.
restaurants, so might as well just for the busy season. And,
Yeah.
get everything kind of going and while this is all playing out.
Yep.
So yes, very late winter, early spring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
during the spring when the days are getting longer.
Yeah, don't worry about the snow.
Couldn't this
So
be
when the
considered a
report
gift
is
shop?
done, does it really need to be voted or it just changed? Just
No,
like
it needs to go to town meeting.
that?
Yeah.
So we typically have a fall town meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so do you think it can be actually presented at that fall town meeting?
Yeah,
We
that,
would expect to, yeah.
we have a few housekeeping items, just things to clean up in town in general. So it would be less about, the financial constraints of the town, but more about just, with the planning board's help, like I said, with their, advocacy for the wording changes within that bylaw. And then there's a couple other things we as a town have to look to do. I don't think the intent is to necessarily point out your store, but it's really to just refine the bylaw and just say, hey, within this wording nuance is a little too restrictive. Like, there's no parcel big enough to ferment alcohol in the town center. This doesn't make sense. But we didn't know what we didn't know.
That's
So
another business plan. If you want to, if you want to make beers, yeah, that's your thing. But
yeah,
I don't make beers.
right. And there's just really no parcel large enough in this town center overlay to support, a brewery like.
How big a
Gotcha.
parcel do you need
I think you need
for, just a home brewery?
It's going to depend on the septic system, because the septic system is what's going to determine the size.
or you'd have to have city sewer
Yeah.
to manage the water. So ideally to be, sometime early-ish October along that timeline, fingers crossed.
First town meeting,
Yeah.
Joan,
November.
Mrs. Simmons.
Mayor. Couple things. Number one, you said, you don't see that you need to expand your septic system because it's only gonna be there for 4 weeks, so you're gonna have,
That's one.
what do you call it, people coming in to buy stuff. Are you not going to be offering them a bath?
Bill,
No,
that's
but there
fine.
is security.
That's one that we need to tweak.
Yes, no
All
problem.
right, that's, number two, our liquor license policies and regulations say that you have to be, at least 500 feet from a church or a school. It says in here, I mean, it is something that, it sounds like it's something that you guys can vote to, not change, but in each particular case, you can vote to,
To
Modify.
modify that.
so,
There-
I'm just saying there's, I didn't take out a tape measure, but
I did actually. No, no, tell me. You can draw a line, so we are 236 feet away from the closest corner of the school.
So the
How far?
requirement,
How far?
236 feet.
236
But
feet?
that's including the white soil.
Yeah, that's the old building. That's
So you would have to vote to override or waive that.
Right.
the requirement is that the board needs to have a public hearing because of that, although you would need to have a public hearing anyway.
Right.
And you would need to find that having a wine shop in this location, 236 feet away from the school, will not have a detrimental effect to the school or the church. And if you find that, then it can locate there.
We actually talked to the principal of Sterling, and we told her, she said, no problem. She knows when I'm going to put a Bud Light sign.
Yes. Ditto. Yeah.
No, but still, the front is just going to say Mirabel Farm.
Or maybe.
Mirabel, that's it. And after it's people to come and stop and get to know, like, we don't want to be that. It's really by the word of mouth that we're going to get to know.
Still our contract.
Yeah.
All right, anything else on that? Mr. Chase?
The planning board has that on their agenda, right, to discuss
For Monday the 17th.
for
On Monday?
our next meeting.
Oh, great.
So I guess the next step would be determining if there's a desire to actually work with town council on an amendment to the bylaw.
Mhm.
And what parameters we want to put on amending the bylaw.
Right.
Because, I mean, the question, I guess, is do you want to allow liquor stores in the town center district? Do you want to put constraints on what type of liquor stores can be located in the town center district? Do you want to more broadly allow retail in the town center district?
Mhm.
Do you want to expand the definition of retail but still have limitations to that? Like, those are the type of questions. Or do we want to have an immediate fix to this particular issue that can kind of probably be quicker, more efficient process, and then kind of longer term, maybe take a broader look at the bylaw?
I think that's probably a more measured approach to it, is to let's address the immediacy and then that's at least in my opinion, I think.
Well, we already do have a retail store operating within the town center district.
Yeah.
So,
For retail.
The bookstores
Do we not?
it's a retail store.
yeah,
They retail books.
okay. So, I mean, why go through the process twice? I mean, but unless it's a gift shop. So is a gift shop different than a retail store? Because that is,
I make a lot of line.
yeah. So it is, so we do allow a gift shop, so that is, I mean, theirs is sort of a gift shop. Gifts happen to be alcohol, which goes through the whole other avenue of
The best.
licensing. But that's how I would see it, but it is sort of called out.
I don't think we need to fix problems that haven't come up yet. Let's fix,
Yeah.
what we,
I agree.
need to fix.
Yep.
And, go from there.
My only thought there would be, we have a little bit of time this summer to think of some economic development opportunities, and there's a parcel of land for sale just behind us that, could turn into
There is.
the two-family right here, and they have
Oh,
a big plot of land back there with parking and an old barn that used to be there that got demoed.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that would that help them sell the property? Would that help us bring a little development into another unique idea like this one? Maybe. And I don't know if there's any constraints there now, but just spitballing here for ideas and try to continue to evolve our
Well, the
town
plan
center.
has already been approved for that area. And it's for
It's a two-family.
another two-family,
Building.
building.
In where the barn used
Where
to
the
be,
barn
right?
Right, and some tiny ass little, tractor shed that they decided was, okay for the commercial space that was supposed to be the first floor. Okay, don't get me started. But anyway, so a plan has already been approved, not saying that somebody couldn't buy that and do something else with it, but the restrictions for the town center district are such that, it would, they couldn't do just anything they wanted to. They would be able to rebuild that building. But I don't think they could do anything else there and still come under the rules and regs of the town center district. It's a residential zone, it's not a business zone. So anything that would be done there over and above what's already been approved would have to meet our regular zoning bylaws, not the, what do you call it, town center district special.
But the district, I mean, everything in the town is residentially zoned, but so that,
Well,
isn't that what the overlay district does, is it allows businesses and commercials to go
Exactly.
within that.
That special,
So that could,
It
with
could be
a
a few
differently
lots.
approved plan, could be different.
well,
Right.
that mean they could, as long as they rebuilt that barn.
To look like the barn.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And as long as they put, they had some retail space, as I say, they, the planning board in its infinite wisdom already, I wasn't gonna go there. We still have, it's still that small, section that, I don't know if you remember or not, there was a little, I think it was like a little tractor shed or something that was attached to the main part of the.
Yeah.
That area, which is, I don't know, 10 by 10, 12 by 12, very small, and definitely not in keeping with the bylaw. But in any case, that's what was approved. And so anybody going in there to do something other than what has already been approved would be a whole new kind of thing.
It would have to go through the whole, planning board process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
All right. Carol?
If you make amendments to the bylaw, does it have to go back to the Attorney General for their blessing again?
I believe
I
so.
believe, yeah, I
I'll
don't
get
know.
that. I mean, I'm not opposed to the project. I just, I don't want the proponents here to think that, town meeting votes that they can honor their line the next day, because then it's gonna be good to go. I mean,
Yeah.
It took a while for the Attorney General to approve the first
Right.
run through of this project.
I mean, the only trouble that we had with that is we honestly didn't have an active state rep that could work these things through.
Yeah, so we've,
All I'm saying is it's not, if the town sends off to
Yeah.
the Attorney General the next day, it's not gonna be a week or two that you're gonna get a.
Well, we can't even continue the process until this
Yep.
passes, so then you have to do the license,
Right.
have our hearing, have our planning board hearing, so.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a fair point. There is time that it's still, because it does have to go through that other process even after town meeting. But to Ron's point, we do have a very proactive town rep now who will push these things for Dunstable. I mean,
Sure.
yeah,
We do,
She's
the
been-
landscape has changed quite
Yeah.
a bit for us.
yeah.
Anything else, guys? Girls?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
No, thanks for coming, and
We're trying.
we look
No,
forward,
It's the best we can do right now.
they look forward to buying cheese, I don't eat cheese, but I'll come.
They're not gonna sell cheese.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll drink the wine instead. It'll be all right.
We'll bring our own cheese and then drink it in your backyard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Town administrators presentation, goals and objectives for FY '24, Mr. Jason.
Okay. I'm not gonna go line by line through this, and I'm not gonna, the presentation I sent you in advance
Yep.
had kind of some summary of the work leading up to this point, which I'm not gonna review, because you have that and you can review it, and if you have questions about it, you can ask. But I'm kind of gonna try to focus on the next fiscal year and what the focus of our work should be. And the intent of doing this is trying to build some consensus between all of us around kind of what's going to drive our work, so that provide a little more focus. Sometimes when you're in an office like that, you kind of get lost in the trees sometimes. So having these kind of goals that we are all on board with and know that we're working towards, for me, it's always been kind of an important part of my ability to organize what I'm doing, and making sure my focus is on what's important. So why do I do this? I try to do this in most communities I've worked in, mostly for that reason, to really focus me on what's important, because there are a lot of, as you know, throughout the day, there can be a lot of distractions. And sometimes you do get lost in kind of putting out fires day to day rather than focus on the larger picture stuff. But if we have a vision, if we're aligning where our goals and objectives are with that, and we have the work plan, so to speak, we'll be able to kind of measure what we accomplished versus what we sought out to accomplish. And by the way, everything in this document will not be accomplished this year. So just let's set expectations right, but we'll do our best to. So I broke it down into these 6 categories: engagement, transparency, communication with the public, engagement, team building internally with our employees, long-term financial stability, capital infrastructure, service delivery, operations, and planning, which, I don't think are surprising to anyone, frankly. So objectives, kind of what we'd like to accomplish under engagement. And we started some of this. So communication strategy, we've started to pull that together. Sue and I have started to pull that together so that we have a plan to create content, to create education with the public, and to schedule that out a few months in advance. We now do have a Facebook page that we've been actively providing information on, and just created an Instagram account, which we're doing the same. And we've created those just because there are different users in each of those platforms. So while there's probably some crossover as well, different audiences for different media channels. And we have, I think, about 250 followers on Facebook and like 80 or so on Instagram already. So those are people that we may have been touching in some way already, but I think a lot of them are new people that we're reaching in different ways. So I think that's a good step forward. Select Board has already been doing a resident newsletter, so just trying to do whatever I can to support the development of that. We've talked about doing like a volunteer appreciation event. One thing that struck me over my first 6 months is the fact that the number of volunteers and the quantity of work that volunteers do here is, I think, fairly unique to the community. It's like amazing. Most communities, the volunteer work that's happening here is done by staff.
Yeah.
So actually making sure that we recognize that, appreciate that properly, I think is important. I've done this in the past, which was super popular and effective, but like here it's a resident boot camp, we call it, but it's basically a municipal 101 type of basically classroom. Stretch out over a certain period of weeks. We basically tell people what we did and educate them on what happens here. And what I found happens is people develop a greater appreciation